We're halfway through the NHL season, so it's time to make some midseason awards. But first, we got a Bruins game to break down for the Tampa Bay Lightning on today's episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber welcoming you in to Locked On Lightning, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can now place a $5 bet and get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com in order to get started. And we will get started by talking about tomorrow's game, Lightning and Bruins. Second time they have played this season in less than a week. 5 days in between these two contests. A 4-1 win for Tampa at home back on January the 9th that put the Lightning in the third place spot in which they are currently sitting. And a lot of the similar factors are going to be factors that we're going to be talking about in today's episode, because the same things still hold true. The last game we talked about the Bruins power play versus the Lightning power play. Lightning with almost double the amount of success on the power play that Boston has. Both 14th in the league, almost, or 4th in the league, almost 26% effective on the power play, while the Bruins are down to 30th at 32 or 13.2%. The Lightning's penalty kill is down at 25th. The Lightning has dropped down below the top 10 for the first time since the beginning of November. And of course, the goal differential. Lightning lead the league just under 4 goals per game, and the Bruins 2.5 goals per game. That is 28th in the league. So the offense is going to be key once again. It was a 4-1 win for Tampa, with Vasilevsky making 11 saves in the final period after combining for 16 in the first 2 periods. So the Bruins really came to the finish furiously. They got an early goal, but the Lightning ended up answering with an empty netter and then a quick power play goal in the final minute and a half of that third period. So I think I don't even think the Lightning stepped off the gas. It was just, when you shoot as many shots as the Bruins have, some of them are bound to go in. The Lightning kind of got their money at the end of the second period, getting the lead for good with a beautiful shot from Eyssimont at the end of the period after a shorthander from Anthony Cirelli really started things off. And getting that first goal, I think, is crucial in general. We've talked about the Lightning's hot start. They're the best first period team in the NHL right now. And I think getting onto another hot start is going to be pretty crucial to beating the Bruins, whether it's just that huge clutch goal in that second period. I think that if that goal wasn't a shorthander, I think it wouldn't have meant as much. It wouldn't have felt as important, as game-changing as it did from Anthony Cirelli. But just because it had been so difficult and at that point impossible to score a goal, that shorthander from Anthony Cirelli really was all the Lightning needed to switch the momentum against the Boston Bruins. And I think this is a team that, they're still with a new head coach. The Bruins struggling a little bit, and they made it known at the end of it. Justin Brazeau with a roughing call, ending up with a game misconduct penalty for him and Emil Lilleberg at the end of the game. I mean, this game got spicy at the end of it. These two teams are ready for this rematch. They know how important it is to the division, even though they do have 2 more games against each other after this contest, both in the month of March, also a home and home about a week apart. So this is just going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how physical this gets, because the way that last one ended, I really expect a physical game. I mean, you had that at the 3 seconds left in the game, Emil Lilleberg was called for a cross-checking penalty, which I think was only kind of had to be called because it was a cross-check, but Kastelik came right at his face. The Bruins were really upset that the Lightning added those 2 goals in the final minute of the game, and I think they're going to try and let the Lightning know that they took that personally when the Lightning come to Boston on Tuesday. And I think that is something the Lightning are going to have to deal with. They are not the most physical team. The Lightning are a team that can skate with anyone and are going to try and outskate you every night and just beat you to the open spots on the ice, get to the right places to get the right chances in. And, that's what they're going to have to do. They're just going to have to outskate Boston again. And in some cases run away from some of the heavy checks that are going to be coming, because I expect this to be a very, very physical game, similar to the way that those Panthers games were, kind of going back and forth, a little bit of physicality, and with that rivalry. And the Bruins obviously isn't as much of a rivalry, but they're trying to make it one for that Stadium Series game at Raymond James Stadium next year. So, I think the Bruins are going to use their extra physicality to their advantage and try and beat up the Tampa Bay Lightning when Tampa comes to Boston. But the Lightning need to just control the pace of the game like they absolutely did. It did not seem for 1 minute really that the Bruins had a hand on the wheel when they came to Amalie Arena last week. It was all Lightning from the second period on, and even the first period it seemed like the Bolts were controlling more chances. They outshot the Bruins in the first two periods by a combined margin of 24-16. They won in faceoffs, even though over the season the Bruins are a better faceoff team than the Lightning are. But it was the physicalities, the penalty minutes, the hits, the block shots. These were all things that the Bruins had over the Lightning statistically. And if the Lightning can outmuscle the Bruins, then it can be a blowout. But I think that the Lightning need to just control the pace of the game like they did in the last one and just got out another win. They've got Hagel and Kucherov both on absolute heaters right now. Kuch with 3 goals and 5 assists over his last 5 games, and Brandon Hagel has put up a point in just about every game of the new year so far, along with Gensel and Braden Point. So the Lightning offense is starting to get back to the way it was. The defense is still definitely missing J.J. Moser, but Darren Radish is filling in admirably. We're going to talk about that in the next couple of segments. But, I think that this is another game that the Lightning really should just expect themselves to win. You hope to have it's going to be both starting goalies going against each other. It's the whole it's the home ice advantage that has helped the Lightning time and time again over the course of this season. So, yeah, I think that this is definitely a game that they should win and that they can win. And if they do win, it honestly could put I don't want to say it takes the Bruins out of the race, but it really is just a gut punch for Boston. And getting back-to-back wins to start the season against a division rival is huge, especially considering the Bruins are 2 points with 4 more games played than the Lightning so far. They're 2 points back of Tampa Bay in those Atlantic Division standings. And we're at the halfway point of the year now. This is when, playoff seeding start to matter. Space in the division starts to matter. Things just carry a lot more weight now. And that means that these divisional games really should be treated like playoff games, because it might not this game might not be, win or loss or away from the Lightning and clinching a playoff spot. It might not directly lead to the Lightning clinching a spot, but if it ends up that the Lightning win or lose this game and the playoff race is decided by, a couple of points either way, this game could be a factor. And this is one of the games that means a lot, not just in the playoff race in the East, but in the division as well. So I think this is a game that the Lightning have to win again. They've got to treat these division games like a playoff game. They'll have Vasilevsky back in net. Hopefully their offense will just do what it's done over the last couple of games and continue to dominate. But, this is going to be another tough test for the Lightning. And it was a slow start, which is not the way the Lightning usually like to do things. They are typically a team who can just get out of the gates quickly and just hold on to a lead for most of, if not all, the game. And I'd like to see them do that against Boston. I think especially on the road, having that to their advantage would be an especially large help on the road. So I think that the Lightning need to get back out into a hot start, show why they're the top first period team in the NHL, and hopefully it can lead to another victory against their division rival. I am going to say the Lightning are going to score 4 goals again, but I'm going to say it's going to be a 4-2 Lightning win with another empty netter that makes it 3-2. And you can tell us about your picks in the comments or DM us on X at LO_Lightning. Until then, though, we're going to go into the Lightning Midseason Awards, who have been some of the surprising superlative players for the Tampa Bay Lightning as we reach the halfway point of 2025. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. And they can also give you odds for Lightning games, like the game against the Bruins. That is tomorrow. The Lightnings were the favorites against Boston on Thursday. They are still the favorites against Boston. Similar lines to that one, 5.5 to total. Lightning favored with -1.5 as a -166 on the favorite. Even fans have them winning 73% of the time. And you can make your picks on FanDuel.com for Lightning games or any others that you so choose. So, the Lightning have played 41 games on the season, and although that's significantly less than most of the rest of their division, we are going to give out some superlatives. The first being the team MVP, and that is going to be Nikita Kucherov. Not just, well, actually, no, it's just because I think he's going to be the NHL MVP. You know, Hart Trophy winner, in my mind, should be the Lightning's MVP, in my mind. Easy one. Darren Radish, I think, deserves some big praise. I'm going to give him an unsung hero award because he was someone that kind of had a spot in flux on the Tampa Bay Lightning team as their seventh defender. Still not a guy with a ton of NHL experience, but, obviously known enough to be part of that rotation. It was just his first full year in the NHL last year when he played all 82 games, and this year he has already equaled his plus minus and made it back to zero from his first 100-plus games in the NHL for the Lightning. 33 games this season. He is their second leading scoring defenseman, a goal and 13 assists, and the fastest Lightning defender ever to reach 50 career points, with most of those coming as assists, is Darren Radish, 8 goals and 42 assists in his first 136 games. Pavel Kubina, who would hold the previous record at 145, and Radish did it a couple of weeks ago. He has been huge for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Even when J.J. Moser was healthy and they were using that seventh defender, he was great in that spot, really helping on the offensive side of things and able to crash and play a solid defense as well. He can clear the puck up the ice. He can make the big hits. He can get in front of shots. He does what you want as a defender, definitely more leaning towards the offensive side. But I think he's someone who's been an unsung hero for Tampa Bay this season because he wasn't, he was just, going to be rotating on that third line, rotating in as the seventh defenseman. But he's had a chance to step up and be on the first line and play with Victor Hedman, with J.J. Moser, the guy the Lightning made a really big swing for to trade. He was going to be that first line defender, and Radish might have thought that could have knocked him out of a spot, but he made himself indispensable to this Lightning team. He's their first defender to come off the bench when they need to go 11-7. He's the guy who is the seventh defender and goes on the attack a little bit more. So I think Radish has been a huge part of what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done this season, and he certainly deserves a lot of credit. So I think he's going to be my unsung hero for Tampa Bay at this point in the season. And we were talking about J.J. Moser, so that might bring us to another potential award, the best offseason acquisition. And I don't think it's J.J. Moser. It is, honestly, it's a toss-up between Jake Gensel and Ryan McDonagh. I think I'm going to go with Gensel because he's brand new and it's a bit easier. McDonagh had 5 seasons and 2 Stanley Cups with the Tampa Bay Lightning before coming back in and joining this team. Jake Gensel had been with 2 other teams in 2024 before moving to the Lightning. He was traded in March and then traded again in July from his new team to a now new team with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And with doing that, he's become one of the 4 players on the Lightning, the only team with 4 20-plus goal scorers Jake Gensel's second on the team in goals to Braden Point, more than even Kucherov and Brandon Hagel, who have arguably been the two best players on the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. So, I think that Guentzel was definitely the best offseason acquisition, not just for the Lightning, but for the entire NHL. I don't think there has been any player who was acquired in this offseason, in the summer of 2024, that has made a more positive impact on their team than Jake Guentzel. And if there's anybody else, it's Ryan McDonagh. He's got a plus 22 right now, which is sixth in the league in terms of plus minus, and he has been one of the most productive defenders in the entire NHL. Shot blocking now up to 11th on the all-time list. He's probably going to get into single digits in that by the end of this season. He has 400 career points now as a defenseman and a defensive defenseman, a guy who really stays back a lot. I think his impact on the Tampa Bay Lightning as a returner sure deserves some recognition. But if we're picking just one off-season acquisition to be the top one, then I think it's got to be Jake Guentzel. Connor Geekie has been great, and I think down the road, that is going to be the reason for the Lightning end up, quote unquote, winning that Mikhail Sergachev trade, because I think Geekie can be an absolute star in this league. But he's played solid for a rookie, but he's still not putting up the type of offensive numbers that you hope for a guy like that. So I think he still needs some time to improve. I think it might have been different. Moser was excellent on that first line. He might have had a shot to be the best offseason acquisition if Jake Guentzel wasn't there and if Moser had stayed healthy. But I think regardless, Jake Guentzel is the best offseason acquisition, not just for the Lightning, but by any team in the NHL in 2024. I think that's absolutely the case. And Brandon Hagel, I think, deserves some other kind of introduction. He might not be, I think he's the breakout player for Tampa. He might not be the best player on the Lightning right now. You've certainly got Braden Point and definitely Nikita Kucherov that are going to want to have something to say about that. Even Jake Guentzel can make that argument. But right now, Brandon Hagel has played all 41 games, one of so far 4 Lightning players to do it, along with Luke Glendening, Ryan McDonagh, and Zemgus Girgensons. But Brandon Hagel is playing in every game, is incredibly productive, has a plus 18, one of the best plus minuses of any forward, and has been one of the better two-way players overall this year. I think he's the Lightning breakout player because he has not just broke out and turned into a great, dependable player for the Lightning, but he's making a name for himself as one of the better players in this league. Selected to 4 nations for Canada, which is not easy with the amount of hockey talent that comes out of that country. I mean, Brandon Hagel, as we've talked about time and time again this year, he's on pace to smash all of his personal bests in what is his second full season with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And for the Lightning, he has missed one regular season game. I mean, he has just been absolutely outstanding since coming to Tampa. And he's 6 goals away from he's 10 goals away from tying his career high in goals with the Lightning. He had 26 last year. He is 21 assists away from tying his career high mark. I believe it's going to be his first season with more than 30 goals. He had 30 exactly in his first full year with the Lightning in 22 and 23. And I think it's definitely going to be his first full season with more than 50 assists. In last year, he had his career high with 49 assists. So Brandon Hagel turned into one of the best players in the entire NHL this year. Most improved player candidate for sure. Definitely the breakout star for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think something that I just thought of as another great offseason move was just naming Victor Hedman captain. I think that was an easy choice, so I don't think we need to go as much into that. But some of the call-ups that have worked well for the Lightning, Michael Eyssimont and Gage Gonzalez. Eyssimont was injured at the beginning of the year. We never really expected to dip down into the AHL, but 6 points in 39 games on that third line. Gage Gonzalez had his first goal of the season, or his career, actually, as did Declan Carlisle, who played just 1 game. And, I mean, those 2 call-ups, I don't know how much – they haven't really moved the needle. They've been solid players for the Lightning, but they haven't really been impact players. And that's something that I'm really looking to in the second half, is to see those prospects from the Lightning, see Gonzalez, see Eyssimont, guys that are a bit younger with less experience in the league, kind of moving around on lines. I'd like to see them kind of turn it up. So that's my thing to watch for next year, is just Eyssimont, or this next half of the season, is just Eyssimont and Gage Gonzalez starting to turn into, higher line players and starting to be more productive on the offensive side. AC Mott especially is a good physical defender for the Lightning, but I'd like to see him and Gonzalez contribute more on the offensive side of the puck as well. And speaking of the offensive side of the puck, we're going to go down the midseason grading list. We'll be doing these once a day over the next week or so, going line by line with the more typical Lightning lines. So for the first line of forwards, Jake Gensel, Braden Point, and Nikita Kucherov will come with the midseason grades for the best line in hockey when we return. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that has definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one convenient place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscription, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I have used it to cancel services that I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with our goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future, which means no more stressing about budgeting every single month. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Check the link below and go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. And one final segment, starting with something that we'll be talking about a lot more over the course of the week, and that is the midseason grades. I have called the Lightning's first forward line the top line in all of hockey, and that is a statement that I'm going to contend with. Was that maybe the case on paper at the beginning of the season? Who knows? But I think by now there is really no two ways about it. All three members of that first line with over 20 goals this season, and a lot of A-plus grades that I can give out. Starting, of course, with Nikita Kucherov, Lightning's right winger. We'll go right to left this time, but I think Kucherov's a good place to start because he's a pretty easy A-plus. There have been few players in the NHL that have been close to as good as Nikita Kucherov this year. Certainly a guy in the running for the Hart Trophy. 62 points is good for third in the season, one behind the goal-scoring leader in Leon Draisaitl, and with 5 fewer games played than Nathan MacKinnon, MacKinnon has scored just 6 more points. I think that Kucherov, I talked about it yesterday. I've talked about it 100 times, and I'll talk about it 100 more. Nikita Kucherov should win the Hart Trophy this year if the Lightning make the playoffs, especially if they cement their status as third place or higher in this Atlantic Division. Too many people were writing off the Lightning, thinking that they were going to regress with Steven Stamkos leaving for Nashville. And it has turned to be the exact opposite. The Predators have been one of the more disappointing teams in the NHL, currently just 3 points ahead of the Blackhawks for the worst record in the league right now. Team that is under 500 at home if you count overtime losses. Meanwhile, the Lightning are back up to their old tricks as one of the Eastern Conference contenders. And Nikita Kucherov is a big part of that. He might not be very vocal with the media. He might not be, a very loud person, but he is someone who makes a big impact in whatever game he plays on. 5 game-winning goals, second on the team, 2 goals on the power play, 20 goals, 42 assists among the league leaders. In both of those categories, he's currently 4th in assists ahead of Connor McDavid and Quinn Hughes, among many others. Only Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, and Nathan MacKinnon with more assists than him. But, Nikita Kucherov has quite simply been the best player on the Lightning this year. And in my opinion, he has been the most valuable player in the entire NHL. So Kucherov gets an A+ on the midseason grades. Probably would be higher if it could, but an A+ certainly for Nikita Kucherov. And the same, I think, can be said about Braden Point, and I'm going to give him an A+ as well. Really, I think that's the grade that we're going to get for all three of these first-line forward guys. I don't think that's a big surprise to anyone because, again, this is the most productive line in hockey. This is probably the best line in the entire NHL. And Braden Point is a big reason why. Second in the league with 25 goals, leading the Lightning, tied with guys like Mark Sheffley and Sam Reinhart and Mikko Rantanen, both key players on some of the top teams in the league, and that is the exact case of Braden Point. At the beginning of the season, he was someone that I said really needed to step up to replace Steven Stamkos, coming off of back-to-back seasons with his second highest numbers in assists and his first and second highest numbers in goals. Point is having a star turn right now, and he might be playing slightly less than he has over the last couple seasons, still around the same amount of time, but he is still being even more productive. He's on pace for over 50 goals and just about 50 assists this season. I think Point is going to finish with 100 points on the season, 50 goals and 50-something assists as well. And the passing is what really impresses me about him, because when you look at a guy like Braden Point, he is not on there to pass the puck. He's not on there to, create chances via his passing. What he's mainly there to do is just put pucks in net. He can pick up goals and put them in the front of the net better than anybody else in the entire NHL. And that's what he mostly does, and he does it well. And he's done it at a high rate. He's going to be in the running for Rocket Richard, maybe even or Ross this year. Braden Point has absolutely established himself as one of the best centers in the NHL. So I give him an A+, not just because of his performance on the ice, but just because of how timely it is, because he had to step up with the Lightning losing maybe the greatest player to ever put on that blue and white jersey in Steven Stamkos, who, by the way, plays Point's primary position now. So Point was the main guy stepping up for Steven Stamkos, and step up he absolutely did. He's established himself as an elite, not just goal scorer, but chance creator in front of the net. And Braden Point has certainly earned any accolades that he's got and he will get over the course of this season. And then he gets an A+ along with Nikita Kucherov. And Jake Gensel, I think, has to get an A+ as well. I mean, do I sound like a bit of a homer? I understand that. I know that it doesn't sound, giving all three guys these A+ grades. I think this is the only unit where you're going to get a full source of A+. You might see it again for Cirelli and Hagel when we talk about the line twos tomorrow, but I think that's absolutely deserved with line one. As I mentioned earlier on, Jake Gensel has been the most productive offseason acquisition in the entire NHL this year. No player who has moved teams in the offseason has scored more goals, put more assists on the board, and put up more points than Jake Gensel. He has been instrumental to the Tampa Bay Lightning's success, has fit in seamlessly with that first line, and made it the best line in hockey. The whole first line, as well as Gensel, Point, and Kucherov, gets an A+++++. The Lightning would not be in the position that they're in without these three guys. And, that big goal streak, 8 straight games with a goal, still the longest such streak of the season. That was Jake Gensel. He's just been so consistent for Tampa. There are so few games where it's just like, where was Gensel? Or, wow, they really took him out of the game, because they just don't do that. He's just able to get into spaces and, slip by the defense in every which way. And he has been just so great for Tampa Bay, fitting in seamlessly, coming in the offseason and not skipping a beat at all. Even with star players like him, even with guys like him that have moved around a lot and have been on a couple teams and have played with some high-level stars, sometimes they can have a rough remarriage when they join a new team and when their situation changes again, especially like it is for Gensel, because he started 23-24 in Pittsburgh. By the deadline, he was in Carolina. 4 months after that trade, after a productive playoff run with the Hurricanes, mind you, Gensel was on his way to Tampa Bay. So he's been moved around a lot, and that can take a toll on some players, regardless of how good they are, regardless of how young they are. It can take a toll on some players. It did not. It has turned Gensel into one of his most he's having one of his most productive seasons yet. He's on pace to break his career highs of 40 goals and 44 assists. The goals set in 2018 and 2019, and then again in 21 and 22, and the assists set in 21 and 22. And both of those numbers, 21 and 21 through 40 games for Gensel, those are numbers that I think he can break. He'll be pushing 100 points. I don't think he'll get to that triple-digit milestone, but he'll definitely be in the high 80s, no low 90s in terms of points at the beginning of the year with some career highs to boot. So A+ is all around for the Lightning's line one forwards, and we'll have more midseason grades as we return later on this week. But that is going to do it for today's show. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now for your second listen, make sure to find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Please make sure to give it a like, a follow, and a subscribe. And please do the same with this show here on Locked On Lightning. Whatever service that you watched on, please give us a listen, give us a follow, give us a like, a subscribe. LO_Lightning on X as well. Please give us a follow there. We really do appreciate your guys' support and hope that you'll show it with 5-star ratings, subscriptions, likes, and downloads. Thanks again for tuning in. Once again, my name is Josh Sperber. Go Bolts, and have a great week.